If Saudis gain Temple Mount control, it will help Israel begin sacrifices there. And three prophetic things happen this week, pointing to an ongoing effort right now, as we speak, to change control from Jordan to the Saudis on the Temple Mount. That's what we're talking about today, and we're starting right now. Now first, things began earlier this month, before the three things, with a Saudi Twitter campaign. Why did the Saudis launch a Twitter assault against the Temple Mount? A recent flurry of social media posts from Christians have gone out on this topic, so you might have seen them. They're saying things like, well, this does it. If Saudi Arabia is against Israel too, it sets back any chance for Jewish sacrifices on the Temple Mount. But actually, what's happening is exactly the opposite. You see, earlier this month, a Saudi Twitter campaign began that promoted the message that the direction of Jewish prayers, which are always towards the Temple Mount, don't matter. And you know what? To a Muslim, that is completely true. Muslims do not care about the rites and practices of other religions. They don't care whether Baptists dunk or sprinkle when they baptize, and they don't care what direction Jewish people face when praying at the Western Wall. They do care, however, which direction Muslims pray, which makes sense. Muslims care about Muslim issues. So last week, the Saudis launched a Twitter campaign designed to emphasize the importance of Mecca and Medina and to de-emphasize Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. That's a pretty simple idea. Mecca and Medina are in Saudi Arabia, after all. And Saudis would care about that, and Jerusalem isn't. That plus the two Saudi cities are the number 1 and number 2 holiest sites in Islam. The Temple Mount is the holiest site to the Jews, the place where the 2 ancient temples stood. But it is considered only the 3rd holiest site in Islam, the spot where the Prophet Muhammad supposedly ascended to heaven, and there is even dispute about that in Islam. And that's what the Saudis are playing up in this Twitter assault. Things about Muslims, not about Israel at all. So why is this happening? As more and more Gulf state Arabs join Israel in the Abraham Accord, they are becoming Israel's allies. And this has infuriated the Palestinians, who have been fighting a verbal battle with the Saudis, criticizing their support of Israel. So according to the Saudis, the Twitter campaign is a response to them, to the Palestinians. It's a Muslim-to-Muslim thing. It's not against Israel at all. But the campaign has focused attention on who it really is that's holding up Jewish sacrifices on the Temple Mount. Tom Nassani, CEO of the Temple Mount and Temple Heritage Foundation, noted, in the end, it is becoming increasingly clear that the main obstacle, the Temple Mount, is in our hands. Now the Saudis and Moroccans have also emphasized the strong connection of the Jewish people to the Temple Mount and the diminution of its importance to Islam. This is a historic opportunity to expel the hostile wafd from the Temple Mount. To this ministry, it's doubtful the wafd will actually be expelled from the Temple Mount. But as we have indicated in past videos, the Saudis are now infiltrating the wafd. They have a presence in it. And that presence is pro-Israel for the moment. Other than the right to sacrifice and worship on the Temple Mount, what else does Israel stand to gain by Saudi control? Well, the Saudis have promised tens of billions of dollars to help restore Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. And in exchange, the Saudis want to be the senior representative on the wafd. Israel also wants to decrease the influence of those hostile to it. And as we reported in this former video, the Palestinians have an ally in Turkey and their dictator, Tayyip Erdogan. And Israel has an ally in the Saudis. Jordan, who controls the wafd, is kind of caught in the middle. And that's really who this Twitter campaign was aimed at, trying to influence Jordan. So which way will Jordan go? We know that eventually sacrifices begin on the Mount because the Antichrist has to take them away. It's biblical. It's guaranteed. It's 100%. So eventually, permission is granted for these sacrifices to begin. Question is how soon? The Saudis and the other Gulf Coast and North African Arabs are now siding with Israel, which makes Jordan's possible move to side with Israel a lot easier. Just a couple years ago, every Muslim country on the planet was against Israel. Now, all of Jordan's neighbors are becoming pro-Israel, all but one. And that is the wild card in all of this, Iran. Everyone fears Iran. And Jordan needs Israel and the Saudis to protect them. So our ministry believes that after Saudis join the Abraham Accord and possibly even form a military alliance, so will Jordan. And the Temple Mount will open up to sacrifices. Of course, we will see. So that places the three other events that took place this week in perspective. First, the Jordanian prince, Hussein, King Abdullah's own son, was about to enter the gates of the Temple Mount on Wednesday to perpetuate Jordan's formal status as the Muslim world's guardian of the site. However, the visit was canceled at the very last minute, supposedly due to a disagreement over security arrangements. Jordan was trying to speed up events because Netanyahu and Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman are in negotiations for the Saudis to join the Abraham Accords, to join a military alliance, and possibly to cement Saudi control of the Temple Mount. So from the Jordanian perspective, this public flag raising on the Temple Mount was urgently needed to send a message that Jordan is still in control. But notice, it was canceled. From Jordan's perspective, this is very suspicious. Then the second event. The Muslims' former Grand Mufti of Jerusalem was arrested this week at his home without explanation. This was immediately followed by a group of Jewish worshippers led by Yehuda Glick, who is famous for wanting to rebuild the Third Temple, entering the Temple Mount on Shabbat, something that has been prohibited in the past. Then third, Jordan retaliated by denying Netanyahu the right to fly over airspace as he was meeting with the Gulf Coast Arabs. Although they rescinded the order, it's obvious that tensions are extremely high over Temple Mount control, and Jordan, the Saudis, and Israel are each undertaking these symbolic acts to signal each other of their intentions, and it's obvious that Israel's intention is to move away from Jordan. So the stage is set for possible Passover sacrifices, could be as early as this Passover, in 1 week, as we have indicated. We expect it to be a complete surprise if it happens, so keep your eyes open. And, of course, for the beginning of ongoing daily sacrifices slightly later. The twice daily are the sacrifices the Antichrist removes according to the book of Daniel. So all Christians need to watch for and understand these sacrifices. But where is that location where the sacrifices are to take place on the Temple Mount? How is it that the Jews now feel they know where the temple once stood? Click right here to keep watching and see how the Israelis paid for and carried out an archaeological and biblical investigation and now are completely sure they know where the former temple location was. This is Nelson, and I'll see you there.